Ooh, that looks tasty.
Welcome folks, today the Hungry Gamer is back with another game review, and today we're talking about Earth Under Siege Flashpoint from Dark Horizon Games. And before I get started, thank you to Dark Horizon Games for sending me this copy so I can make this video. Also, please make sure you turn your Klingon subtitles, because if I make any mistakes in the rules overview, that is where you'll find the corrections. Now what this game is, this is a sci-fi dungeon crawl adventure game, and you're going to be building up these characters and building up their base, kind of XCOM style, a little bit of XCOM meets Galaxy Defenders, if you will, game as you're trying to save the planet. And you'll be doing that through both card play and through dice chucking. Now, if you are not interested in how this game is played, we'll jump into my final thoughts, then you want to go to the timestamp on the screen right now. For those of us still here, let's talk about how this game is played. Now, what you're seeing here is the aftermath of one of the games that I've recently played. And while this is not a full-on how to play, I am going to go through some of the basics of how the game is played in order to hopefully give you an idea of what is going on. Each time you play, you're going to have a different mission with different goals. For example, in this particular one, which is one of the earlier missions, so it's not too much of a spoiler, our heroes had to get from the insertion point over here to the extraction point here, pick up all of this stuff, and then hold the room until all of the different things could be extracted from the room. And then they would win. Now, this particular mission was classified as a breach and clear mission. And what that in general means is we're coming in and we are coming in hot and we're coming in loud. And that's going to mean a couple of things. One, we're going to have this particular ability right here, this free action we can do once per round. And the bit of talking about the blips are those right here, and I'll explain that in just a bit. And so that is a breach and clear. And the breach and clear also comes with some specific gear that you're able to use because you're doing that particular tactic as you're taking on the mission. In this particular mission said you had to do it, but in many missions you're going to get to choose. So for example, this mission came with a laser sight and armor-piercing rounds and some armor, etc., etc. However, we also could have taken on an espionage role, in which case we would have started with different starter gear, and you'll see a different power there. Or perhaps we would do the Black Ops, which again would give us different power, and so on. And each of these different powers, as you level up your base, will get better and better and better, as you can see here. Next thing I want to point out is each of the different characters has two different styles you can play them as. You can play them as a squad member, which is kind of a half character, which makes it easier to solo or two-hand the game. And what that means is the character just boiled down to a single bonus ability that you have based off of the level of your HQ, which I'll talk about very briefly in a bit. And what that also is going to do is it's going to give you a different side of the player board that you're going to use that has another power over here, as you can see, versus the other side right there. But for most of the characters, if you're playing a full character, you're going to have a deck of cards that you're going to be using. And each turn you'll have a hand of these cards that you'll be getting, and you'll be able to use these cards on your turn. And as you can imagine, as you go through the game and you upgrade your HQ, you'll gain access to more and more of those different cards that you're going to be able to use. Now, as you play, you're going to have these 6 different tokens that are going to be available to you, and you have 3 for movement and 3 for action. And on your turn, you'll be able to do one, which will allow you to move, which in general would be 1 or 2 spaces. If you go 1 space, you'll be able to kind of hide against the walls, you'll gain some cover bonuses. Or you can move 2 spaces and you get no cover bonuses. And then you have these actions. Now these actions can be a ton of things. It might be a simple attack, in which case you're going to take a look at what your attack ability is here, plus any attack bonuses you have from your weapon. In this case, my attack is 3, plus 1 more there, and I'll get to roll the focus die. So I would take my 4 dice, I would roll those, as well as the focus die. And what I've gotten here is, I've gotten a total of 3 hits, and 1 stealth focus. And I'll just kind of put that down right there. And I'll move this other hero away for the moment. And the way that the attacking is going to work is you're going to see who it is you're attacking. So if I was attacking right there, again, I rolled 3 dice. I should say I rolled 3 hits. And then I would compare it to their card here. And we'll see that they have a defense of 5. So I would not have done any damage. Now you can also discard a card that you have to do a reroll, and we'll just pretend that on my reroll, I wound up with that. 2, 3, 4, 5. So in that case, I've managed to hit, and I would do my weapon damage, which we can see is 1, to that particular grunt. So they would have 1 health left. Now, if I were to have completely defeated that grunt, then I would get to go to the Valor bag here. I'd be able to reach in, pull out a Valor token, and that's a bonus that anybody can use from there on. In this case, it would be add 1 die to a dice roll that you're making, and there's a whole bunch of different things that you might find. And to clarify, that's only if you defeat the last enemy in that group. And again, I'll talk about how they show up in just a bit. However, another thing that you might do, and you're probably going to wind up doing, is you're going to be using those to play your cards. And your cards are where the real interesting things are happening. And so perhaps I'm going to make an attack. And then I would play a card in conjunction with that, and it's going to give me bonuses to what I'm doing. However, you will also see it has use for these focus tokens down here. In this case, if I were to spend one of these focus, then I would do an extra damage on that attack. So, had I played this when I attacked, then that attack also would have been an AoE attack, which would have hit any other bad guys in there in addition just to the one, and I would have done 1 more damage. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different types of abilities that you can use, as I kind of just lay some of these out for you to see, and some of them are offensive, some of them are defensive, and some of them perhaps are used just to help you move around the board. However, that's not all you can do. However, this game is not just about attacking. You're also going to be rolling these dice if you are trying to stealth, because many of the missions have you moving through and trying not to be spotted, not to be seen, and so you'll be rolling the stealth dice right there and comparing that to the enemy's perception value in order to move around unseen, or perhaps you'll be using this ability here to unlock doors, to sabotage cameras, etc., etc. There's a lot of different things going on that you can do, and I'm just listing a few of them. Now, the next thing I want to make sure I point out is there are these different blips that are on the map. And what these are representing where enemies are on the map. And if they are a green token, it means they're not moving. If they're yellow, it means every turn they're going to move towards the closest point of interest, which are things that show up on the board when you make noise here and there, or you interact with something that's going to make it a point of interest. And the same will be true of these kind of elite minions right here, which can either be stationary or they can go on the move. Now, eventually what's going to happen is you'll get to a point where you can actually see one of these blips. Then at that point, what's going to happen is you're going to draw one of these spawn cards, and it's going to tell you what's going to happen. It's going to tell you that enemy 4 is what's just showing up at that spot, and you'll go through the cards that have been set up for your particular mission, and you'll find number 4. In this case, a single Dominator is going to spawn, and any operatives within 2 zones must exhaust one of their action tokens. And then you'll find the mini, put it on the board, and it's something that you have to deal with. And as you can see, each enemy has a different set of defenses and attacks, and some enemies are going to actually have multiple attacks they're going to get to do, such as this war leader right here, which might do 2 different attacks. And my mistake, this is the war leader here that I put out, not the Dominator, but you get the idea. And you'll notice that every time it activates, it's going to do both of these actions, thus doing potentially a ton of damage. So that's the reason why you might want to stealth or take cover, etc., etc. Now, there's only a couple other things that I really want to make sure that I point out. The first one is that in addition to what's going on, every single round you're going to be drawing one of these threat cards, though it is possible to draw more if you're playing with more characters, and depending on if you have been spotted yet, because every game you come in and they don't know you're there, so you can use that stealth ability to move around. If you do happen to spot a blip, if you're able to stun that bad guy, or if you're able to take them out completely before the enemies activate, then you'll still be stealth. And so every round you'll be drawing one of these cards, and if you're still in stealth, you'll activate the top. If the alarm has been set, you'll be doing the bottom right here. And that's going to happen every round, and in general, these are always bad. Speaking of things going bad, as you're playing through, as you start taking damage, you don't actually have hit points in the way that we usually think of it. Rather, you'll be taking these tokens here, flipping them over, and they are permanently exhausted until you get healed. So not only are you taking damage, you're actually losing the number of abilities you're able to do each round. And I should also point out that you're able to spend as many of these tokens each round as you want, though in general you're only going to refresh 3 at the beginning of a round. And so you're going to be going through each game, trying to figure out the best way to accomplish your objectives, whether it's go through kill everything, or perhaps it's go through stealthily and disarm the different cameras so you can't be seen. It's possible to make your way into various control rooms where there's technicians. You can take them out instead, which will turn off all the cameras. And if you do all of that quick enough, you're going to be able to avoid being spotted, and you can move around a little bit more safely as you try to make your way towards whatever the objective may be, which in this case was a get to this room, get the stuff, and get out. And the very first scenario you're going through, you're trying to find some documents and then find the war leader and take it out, and so on and so on. And you have a choice of 5 different characters you can play as you're trying to do this, though there is an expansion available that adds, I believe, 2 or 3 more. And as you're going through, you're going to be finding various types of gear that you're going to be able to use. And that might be alien gear, which are these purple cards here, and in general are better than whatever the human gear that you can get is. But once you find it, you're going to have to learn how to use it. And that's another one of the actions you can take using kind of the blue science skill here, is you're going to be able to use that to try to get enough hits on your dice to be able to understand how to use the gear that you have found. Or you might wind up finding your basic human gear, which you can use right away. And some of it is very, very good, but in general, it's not going to be as good as the alien gear. Then in between levels, as you go through the game, you'll be able to interact with your headquarters, which is just a simple sheet that you'll be looking at and kind of leveling up and gaining new abilities, which will then in turn give you access to better and better gear as you're going into each individual mission. But really, that's the very broad overview of how this game works. So, what do I like about this game? The first thing is, I really do like the way the strategy cards work as you're going into each different mission. Sometimes it tells you have to do a breach and clear, you have to do a stealth mode, but I really like the times when you get to kind of choose how you're going to approach this, and along with that, that's going to give you different gear, that's going to help you do that. I love that. And I love that as you upgrade your base, those are going to get more powerful and they come with extra abilities and stuff. I just think it is a wonderful detail that's been added to this game. And something that I wish more games would do things like that, because it doesn't change a lot when it comes to the setup. It just changed to how you approach it, which is very, very cool. I also really like the way the actions and cards work, both the just action tokens where you just have, where you can do 6 actions in a turn if you want, but of course that's going to slow you down later on. And I like the way that works. I like how you have those choices, but I also like the huge variety of action cards and how each of the different characters, mostly they're doing kind of the same types of things, but they really specialize as you would expect considering the types of characters that they are. And I think that is just fantastic. And I also like that you're slowly able to take cards out and put cards back in. As you level up going through the campaign, you are progressively getting stronger and stronger. And I think that's wonderful as well. I also really appreciate that you can do the squad member ability, which is you take a character and you don't have their deck of cards, they just have a single ability, or 2 abilities, I should say, that you're going to get to use, and they kind of run around and work with you, and they're very easy to manage that way. And I love that this game does that because it allows you to play more characters than maybe you could otherwise. The next thing I really like is the variety in quests. A lot of times in dungeon crawls, and less lately, but a lot of times in dungeon crawls, you have well, just kill everything. Just go kill everything. Or survive this many rounds. But in Earth Under Siege, you have a lot of different styles of quests of what you're doing. One that I had set up on the screen in the rules overview earlier is one where you kind of had to fight your way through, get to this one room, and collect all this data from the one room, and then hold out until you're able to get it all out of there. And I thought that was also really, really clever the way that works. It's kind of tower defense, but it's kind of this battle your way to the tower defense and then get out. And there's all kinds of different missions in there, and I really think that works very well. And of particular note, it does a very good job at being a game that's a lot about stealth. It is very hard just to go in guns blazing in this game because stealth is really important. You really do feel like you're a special ops team. Even when you're bursting through and you're breaching and clearing, you're still using some stealth to get around because you're trying to find the perfect moment to do that attack. You're trying to take out the cameras, you're taking out the camera operators and things like that just so you can keep going. All the gear you can get's really cool. There's grenade launchers, there's different rifles, there's my favorite is this gas canister that you can kind of spray under a door and take things out. It's just very, very clever the way that works. Also, the AI Very clean, very easy to use. I like that as well. And then, of course, I love that you're upgrading the base, and as you upgrade the base, you're upgrading yourself as well. So what are my quibbles with the game? The first thing is, I wonder if there's just not too many different types of focus. I love the way the focus works, and you're using it to upgrade your cards and all that, but there's so many different types, and you're going through, and so there's times when I was like, yeah, oh, nope, I don't have the crosshairs focus, I got the shield, and it felt like it slowed things down a little bit just for me. That may just be a me thing, it probably is. The next thing I'll say is the way the threat cards work, and I understand why they are there, but it kind of feels like it's just a reason just go fast. Like, just tell me to go fast sometimes. Because it's just, something bad happens to you every turn, and sometimes it really sucks. Like, it's just so frustrating if you're trying not to kill a lot of things that you've finally taken something out and you did it, and you got a Valor token just for the game to say, oh, nope, sorry, lose a Valor token. So sometimes it just feels punishing, which I understand is punishing because you got to keep moving, but punishing in an unfun way. And I'm not in love with that. The next thing I want to say is the story is interesting enough, it is adequate, but it strikes a weird balance between serious and goofy. And it doesn't seamlessly bring them together in a way that makes sense, where sometimes there's stuff that happens like, oh, that was needlessly goofy. Don't know about that. And I kind of wish the game would decide what tone it wants to take. The next thing I'm going to say is, though I love having the kind of squad member half character, I wish they were a little more complex. Give me a little more choice on that card. And the further you go, you get more interesting options, but I just want a little bit more. I like them still a lot, but just not quite as good as I think they could be, which is going to bring me to my last thing. You really kind of need to always have at least 3 characters, or you are crippling yourself, because skills matter. You need someone to open those doors. You need someone that can do some damage. The first game I played, I brought the leader and the medic, and I couldn't kill a dang thing. And the mission required me to kill somebody, so I was at a disadvantage. Sure, be smart later and understand that, but you really need at least 3 characters. And even with the half characters, sometimes that starts to feel like a lot to manage, and the game is very much harder the fewer characters that you have. But really, that's it, folks. I was very pleasantly surprised by this game. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorite games, Galaxy Defenders. A lot of kind of the vibe of the way the story works, the way the bad guys kind of teleport in, the way the blips are moving around, even the character archetypes. All of it, a lot of it seems very familiar to this game that I love, but of course this one is taken up a notch with the card play and the different types of scenarios, and all in all, I think if you are looking for a sci-fi dungeon crawler, this is one that is really a good one, because there's not a lot of good sci-fi dungeon crawlers, and this is one of them, and then especially if you're interested in stealth, because that's where this game shines more than any other, the stealth. But there you have it, folks. As always, if I've made any mistakes in the rules overview, please let me know in the comments with the timestamp so I can get that in the Klingon subtitles. If you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.